Katie with Specialty Materials, and I am a guest of Heat Transfer Warehouse, and today I'm going to be pressing some ThermoFlex. Specifically, I'm going to be pressing some ThermoFlex Turbo on this lovely gray shirt. Yes, nice long sleeves for this really cold weather. I'm from Oklahoma, and like when I left it was 80 degrees. So I am freezing here. This is why we're doing a long sleeve shirt today. I need something to stay warm, and I need something really cute on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pre-press my shirt real quick before I start weeding. But yeah, I got a multi-colored and multi-layered design for you today. I have a cute little owl. It's gonna be so adorable. All right, so what I am doing right now is, this is the process called weeding. I am basically ripping off the excess vinyl to reveal the nice and clean cuts of the design that's hidden. So as you can see, we got feet and a little smiley beak. And so when you're weeding, you're going to be using what's called a weeding tool, and it's like just this nice little hook thing, which please be careful. This is sharp. There have been multiple times where I've been weeding and I've been like, ow. It's all, honestly, I should probably wear a thimble when I weed, but I don't because I'm hardcore. True people who do HTV bleed for their art. Maybe not. Nah, don't do that. Don't do that. That sounds painful. And it's not fun. But because it's so sharp, it's able to grab this vinyl and pick it up from the carrier, which is super sticky. As you can see, super sticky. Or, there. I have now weeded everything, and now one of the most important steps whenever you have this many colors is to stay organized. And how I do that is, before I even press, I put, I stack everything to show the image how I want it to look on the shirt. And then that way I can also show what needs to press first and what needs to be arranged to, you know, make it look good. So that's what I'm gonna do currently. So I'm gonna just line everything up. And one of the things that I definitely encourage people to do, now you can press everything individually, but for some of these small pieces, it doesn't make sense to only press one little small piece at a time. So one thing I will be doing after I stack this is, like for the little feet, the beak and stuff like that, I will be pressing multiple small pieces on it. And it's just because, like, you obviously don't want to press your vinyl like 100 times. So being able to kind of consolidate and be like, all right, I can press these pieces at the same time is really smart. It'll save your vinyl and it won't like burn, melt, or ruin your design. Like, you want to avoid that as much as possible. And this is also handy so that you can see if there's any issues with your cutting, like lining this up will make sure that, you know, everything's kosher. Or if you're like, oh no, like for some reason my stuff is not the correct size anymore, you're able to fix that. Such as with this layer needs to be on the bottom because it goes underneath on the bottom plane. And I'll stick the eyes on, or like the pupils on after, but this is basically how you'll layer everything, make it look nice and neat. And it's like, okay, cool. So you have your layout. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that I have it, it's a drawer. I'm gonna make sure that I have it where I want it on the shirt. And I usually try and do at the very least 3 inches from the collar, because like as soon as it goes like way too high, I'm like, this lettering is a little high, but if it gets way too high, it starts like messing with you and then scratchy and just, it's uncomfortable. So whenever you're pressing, keep that in mind. Unless your design goes up to the collar, then ignore what I said. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna be pressing this little wing first, along with the little feet. Because again, consolidating everything. Now, the tip that I have whenever I personally press, like this is ThermoFlex Turbo, so this does not really apply, but when I'm pressing multiple layers, and I'm talking like 6+ layers of ThermoFlex Plus, I press it for 5 seconds for the starting layers, but then the final press is for the full time. And that, again, also helps with making sure that your vinyl doesn't get like too heat pressed and damaged. It makes sure, I have found that it kind of helps with the color shifting that sometimes occurs. And it just, like, it saves you time too. It saves you time and it works. So, Turbo typically presses at 275 for 5 seconds. However, I am pressing it at 320 because Turbo is also super hardy. So you can press it at this time and it's gonna be fine. Now don't leave it on there for 50 seconds and expect it to be okay. Like don't do it. Don't do that at all. But that is currently what I am pressing it at. And it's looking amazing. So now I'm gonna do the body of the owl. One other tip is when you're doing multiple layers like this, having a Teflon sheet will help also preserve the colors that have been pressed, and then that way the vinyl does not end up getting stuck to the top in case you press it for too long or anything. This has a Teflon cover, so I don't need a Teflon sheet to put over it, but it's always good to kind of keep that in mind. I'm just gonna have my mess pile over there. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Alright, so now I have currently pressed 4 pieces, and now we're at 5. So I will mention this. If you accidentally start kind of stretching ThermoFlex Turbo, it is okay. Like ThermoFlex Turbo, like I said, is really hardy. It's going to recover just fine once you press it, and so the damage is going to be minimal. And even, like, honestly, even if you make a rip into it, Turbo is very, very kind to people who make mistakes like that. You can actually separate it fully and then press it together, and it'll, like, near seamlessly be back together and be fine. So, like, ThermoFlex in general, like, honestly, ThermoFlex Plus also has this aspect where it's very forgiving if you make a mistake or if you accidentally rip it or like your cat tries to eat it. I don't know. Keep it away from your cats. It's not edible. But if you do make a mistake like that, do not worry. Do not throw out your design. It is okay. It'll be just fine. I will say this, if you layer it, you gotta make sure you remember what layers go where, because otherwise you're just gonna be pulling all sorts of stuff off your carrier and you're gonna be like, why is it doing that? Alright, so I got this, and I'm gonna go ahead and trim this up just a little bit. We don't need that excess carrier on there. And then that way, while I'm pressing this, I can also start pressing the beak, because again, consolidating. And if you need to, line up the pieces that you have and then line them up on your work, you know, to double check. It's one of those measure twice, cut once type of instances. But we are almost done. We only got the eyes, including the pupils, and we got the yellow, and then the beak. So one thing I will say is if you are pressing multiple layers and you find that even though it lined up perfectly whenever you layered it, but it shifted slightly whenever it's on here, I do recommend that you break it apart and line it up by hand. Then that way you have a little bit more control over it. If there's any issues, you're able to fix it because you're able to line it up and it's not one solid piece. So if it's not lining up when it's one solid piece, break it apart. That way you can get it to look how you want. Because no one likes it when they've worked so hard on a shirt and then it's like one little piece isn't lining up. Nah, don't mess with that. Now we got the beak and the eyes, and since I want to do the beak at the same time as the whites of the eyes, I'm just going to trim off the carrier. You can have the carriers overlap, but as soon as vinyl gets put under a carrier, or not under a carrier, but over a carrier, nah, that's not, you want to try and avoid that, because that's a problem. Because that means once you peel it up, there goes your vinyl. Now, like I said previously with ThermoFlex and Turbo, you can fix that if that does happen, and it has happened to me. Like, I cannot lie. But you are able to fix it. It is not a problem that you're stuck with. This, where did I go? Oh. Watch your eyes. If they fall on the floor, it's not good. Okay. And we're gonna press one more time. Ooh, that's looking good. Okay. So one thing that I do, like after all this is done, I do one final press for like only 1 or 2 seconds, and that's to smooth out any lines that the carrier likes to put in lines into the vinyl. So in order to get rid of that, I just press it for like 1-2 seconds. Like, I'm not going to even put that down all the way, just to kind of even it out. But look, we got a little owl. Look at how cute he is. But yeah, that is just some of the ways that you can use HTV ThermoFlex, and specifically ThermoFlex Turbo, but you can also repeat this process with ThermoFlex Plus. They are very similar. The only thing I would say about like their differences is that Turbo obviously has a lower press point and a lower time for pressing. ThermoFlex Plus, wide range of colors, and so you can do some like creative, like monotone color stuff, and that's really cool. So explore, experiment, and have fun. That's what I say.